So before we start, I'm going to give you a few interesting numbers, overwhelming numbers. 5 Grammys, 58 Dove Awards, countless number ones, 11 million albums sold. Who do you think we're talking about? Steven Curtis Chapman. Welcome, Steven. Welcome back to Canada.
Thank you, Maggie. Good to be here again. Thanks.
It's been a long time. Great tour that you're on. Tell us about the tour and what's so special about it this time.
Well, The Glorious Unfolding is we did a tour in the States this last year, fall, and then a spring tour this year. And it's been a really important album, CD, MP3. I don't even know what to call them anymore. You know,
I know they're
whatever it is. I know. Yeah, I still call them albums.
Yeah.
And I think most people do. But collection of of music, whatever format you get it in. But it is sort of a the most recent, I guess in a way, sort of snapshots of my life, especially these last couple of years, and my faith journey, and really centered on this theme and kind of this idea of God really knowing the plans that He has for us, and committed to finishing what He started and working everything together for good. All these great verses that we quote and know and hold on to, but living through more and more of life and the journey of life, and especially, and we probably talked a little bit about this the last time that we were together, because it was 6 years ago this month that we lost our youngest daughter, Maria, in a tragic accident and a devastating, chapter in our story, and really redefining in our lives. And through that, and there's been music that has come out of that, some that's been very much laments and psalms, and I did an album, Beauty Will Rise, and then a recording called Recreation, going back and kind of restating some of those things that I had said and declared and proclaimed in music, in the last 26 years now since my first album came out, and sort of restating those in light of this, new understanding of how desperate I am for these truths, how much I need these, and how I'm anchored to them even when life, takes you in places you can't ever have imagined. And then this most recent season for my family and I to begin to be able to say, still with a broken heart, still with things that won't heal until heaven, in terms of just the loss and the grief and sadness, but seeing God do some amazing things and bring us into new chapters of this story that is unfolding. And that's the thought of this glorious unfolding, that God really is, as Scripture says, the author and finisher of our faith. He's writing this story, and He knows where it's going, and He is telling an amazing, glorious, epic story with each of our lives and with His grand story and our parts of that. But it does involve, for all of us, some very dark and difficult chapters. But as we journey through those, and as we have as a family, and we have 3 marriages, that we've celebrated in the last 6 years. We have 2 grandbabies, new life, new beginnings, new things to celebrate. It's felt very important for me, my little part in the body, the hangnail on the left pinky finger, or whatever part that is of the body that I am, to be able to say from sort of this unique position, as my family and I've been through what we have, that we really can say this with confidence, with certainty. Doesn't mean we're all fixed and through and over, that hard thing, and won't be, and to embrace that, and to know that God's strength is, His grace is enough, and He has carried us and is carrying us through. And these are revelations that we can only have now, and that I can only have now at this point, that, God really is unfolding this amazing story.
There's so much of the story that's still yet to unfold, and this is going to be a glorious unfold.
what is it like, especially with Glorious Unfolding, to, I mean, it really almost becomes your journal, right? Like you're communicating with God and you're allowing people to peek into you and your family's journey through healing.
Yeah.
What is that like, letting people into that part of your life?
Well, it's wonderfully cathartic in ways. I think it's been a part of our healing. I mean, I try to imagine, what the journey would have looked like had I not had this this outlet and this relationship, really, with people, with brothers and sisters, in the faith, to be able to talk about and share my journey and hear from them, and that's been such a part of, sometimes the feeling like, gosh, the why questions that you can't help but wrestle with, and you're not going to get the answers, to all of that. God's ways that are higher than ours, but when you can see something like writing songs and sharing the journal, sharing those stories and chapters in the journey with people, and watch that connect with other people's lives and hear the response, and know that people will say, even as specific as, I lost a child, and I became numb to it. I couldn't even listen to so much Christian music that before had really ministered to me.
Right.
I remember one specific story, and this is just one, but it's kind of indicative of many that we've heard, that, that someone that would say, I'm even hearing the songs that people would sing, that I would think, but they don't really understand my pain.
Yeah.
It's one thing to say these things, but she said, when I was able to listen and know your story and hear the things that you were saying out of that, she said it was the doorway for me to be able to get back to faith, and so you hear those kinds of stories and many others, that's one of the most dramatic, but others of, people, and I think too, just for my family and I to feel like, there's purpose in this, God's bringing some, it doesn't, the theology of all the, it's never this happened so that this could happen, because I don't think, that becomes a really, that puts, something very evil and dark and awful in, in the terms of, a cause and effect. It's not that as much as these things that God can bring out of, as beauty out of the ashes, and so when I get to share that,
people are walking with you through it,
yes,
and supporting you through that as well must be helpful.
We felt like, and have felt like in these last 6 years, and this is not like an exaggeration or kind of sounding dramatic, but at times almost the most prayed for family in the world. I mean, because people all over the world would say, we're praying for you in China, we're praying for you in Africa, we're praying for you in Australia, we're praying, in Canada, we're praying for you in the U.S., all over, cities everywhere. And to go, man, that's, I don't know how we'd survived without a single one of those prayers, but sometimes you almost feel like, this, so many prayers are being prayed for us, so many people thinking of us, and I want to share with them, where we are. I think, too, what's been important is that this isn't a recording or a tour that is, built around and centers on this great, dark chapter of our family. That's one part of our story now, and a very redefining part. But it's, there's songs for Mary Beth on this album, together, and a song that I could only write, 30 years into marriage. This is our 30th anniversary this year, and a song for my daughter Shoei, who's 14, who has her own story, of just life and struggling, and she's 14, and how am I beautiful
identity
enough,
issues,
and
all of that,
and to be able to address that and talk about the regular stuff of life again, is, I think even that's hopeful for people to say, and I write about the loss of my 99-year-old grandmother in a song, See You in a Little While, but in context of how different that is now, with a daughter living in heaven, and now my grandmother's going to heaven, and the little messages I whispered to her to take to Maria, that for me is very real and a very hopeful part of our journey now. So even to be able to talk about those things, you know, in the context of this music and a tour, I think is all part of, you know, what God's allowed me to be able to do at this point in my journey.
Come on, love, take these thoughts and I'm thinking love. Take these words and I'm speaking love. Take me over.
Is it okay for me to say there's a little bit of a different sound too? I felt like
Yeah.
there was I don't know, an airier sound or something about your music. I mean, it's still Steven Curtis Chapman, but it sounded a little different. What was that?
Well, I mean, that's, you know, by design in some ways, because it is a new season and it's new, you know, God's making all things new, and I never want to, it's a challenge. It's always a bit of a challenge for me, and that's part of what keeps my creative heart beating, you know, is to say, okay, I want to make music that feels relevant, that feels fresh, you know, with what's going on. I'm still a student of music. I listen to what's going on, what people are being moved by, and what's popular, you know, in the sense of, because there's a reason it's popular. It's connecting with people. It's, you know, it's not just that it's the, you know, the flavor of the month or the day, but there's a reason people are gravitating towards that. It's speaking a musical, creative language, artistic language that people relate to, and I think it's smart for me to pay attention to that.
So what are some of your influences then, your musical influences now?
Well, you know, anymore it's having my sons who were with me on my tour the last time around here, and I'm missing them terribly on this tour, and they are as well. They keep texting me, Dad, I was going in Canada. Man, I wish we were with you. We miss it. Brings back a lot of memories. But they are doing their own music and just blowing up. They just actually yesterday sent me a picture of them sitting down at the desk signing the contract. They've signed a record deal of their own. So
that's
they've
exciting.
been releasing their music independently for a while. And they've signed a recording agreement with a label in the States, a mainstream. So their music's going to kind of have a chance to go out into the world in some really exciting ways. And they're just, you know, they're amazing musicians, and because they are much more, you know, they're listening to all the music that's, you know, going on in the world they live in. They're all the time, you know, kind of tipping me off to, Dad, check out this. I think you'd like this. You ought to listen to this record. You ought to hear that. And I mean, if you looked at my playlist, it you know, on my iPod or phone or whatever, it makes no sense, because it's you know, it's a movie score. You know, it's jazz. It's bluegrass. It's, you know, rock and roll. It's
all of this plays a role.
It's kind of all of that, all over the place.
So what's next? What's next for you?
Well, really looking forward to kind of being home for a season. I mean, I've been home for a bit, but we did the spring tour, and now we're here, and going to spend the summer a lot just with my family. And my wife and I celebrate our 30th anniversary in the fall.
That's exciting.
And my wife has a very big birthday coming up. It's a big one. So that's a big, you know, we're coming to a couple of big milestones within a month of each other. So the fall, we've been kind of put it on our calendar for a while as just sort of blocking out most of the fall to just spend a lot of time doing some fun things together, being together.
Being a family, being a couple,
just enjoying some of that. I've got a Christmas tour that I'm going to do with Brandon Heath.
Will we see you in Canada again?
I'm not sure if we're going to make it up here or not. We need to. We need to. I need to bring it up this way. So we got that, and then I'm working on a project that's sort of a worship-oriented, corporate worship-oriented project, working with a lot of different worship leaders, and which is really exciting and a little scary for me, because it's a similar but different world than mine. You know, I'm more of a singer-songwriter kind of writer, so this is going to really stretch me maybe in some new ways. But I'm excited. I've been invited into a kind of a big thing that's kind of going on that has some book and different elements with the church, and there's going to have a music element, and I'm sort of steering that, sort of at the helm of that. So,
so you're not going away.
I'm excited.
I'm not
still
busy.
I'm not going to be, going to be retiring to my, my camper just yet. My little, but trying to take more time for those, for those moments too at this point in my life, and enjoy my kids and grandchildren now, granddaughters, and all of that.
Perfect. Thanks, Steven.
You're welcome.
Thank you for your
Thank you,
time.
Maggie.